All right, hello everyone. We are Team Bobcats. My name is Mariah. I'm here with Haley, Trevor, Rachel, and Noor. And today we're going to be talking about some presentation skill building um, to better help you present in the future. So we want to really just briefly talk about why we want to learn presentation skills. So there's a variety of different reasons, but we just highlighted a couple here. So one is to effectively convey your message to large groups of people. You can also, by doing this, you can practice public speaking skills and also develop skills that may assist you in future leadership roles. This also helps to decrease public speaking anxiety and project a professionalism and confidence. And lastly, just learning these presentation skills will really help you assist with future training and workforce development projects in your careers. Now moving on to our learning objectives, we created a mnemonic device. It is AIM UP. So each one of our learning objectives starts with the letter associated with AIM UP. So the first learning objective is address methods to increase self-efficacy. The second one is to increase preparedness for efficient presentations. The third one is minimize nervous habits and reduce fears of persuasive and interactive presentations. Fourth is to utilize skills to engage and entertain the audience through virtual and in-person presentations. And lastly, fifth is to perfect physical presentation skills. Okay, so now to go into our first learning objective, this is to address self-efficacy. So I really want to talk about, first of all, the person that pioneered the term self-efficacy, which was Albert Bandura. Back in 1977. So he said that self-efficacy is people's beliefs about their capabilities to produce designated levels of performance that exercise their influence over events that affect their lives. And so now I just want to talk about some tools that can help increase self-efficacy. So the first one is to stay in your stretch zone. So there's kind of three levels: the comfort zone, stretch zone, and panic zone. We want to talk about staying in the stretch zone because studies have shown that people are more productive in the stretch zone and they're more likely to take reasonable chances and are more resilient to failures and setbacks. By trying to enter that stretch zone, we're able to better set goals, do things that we like, try new things, and face challenges more effectively. We're able to also accept challenges and failures more positively. And lastly, we're able to approach the goals more slowly and not overstress about the results that may or may not happen. The second tool that I have here is to set simple goals. So low self-efficacy really makes us doubt our abilities and to perceive tasks that we're trying to accomplish more difficult than they really are. And as a result, we don't make enough effort and we blame ourselves for our underachievements when they really might not be underachievements. And this really destroys our trust in ourselves, and we want to stray away from that. So by setting those simple goals, we can be more effective and mindful in our actions and ultimately increase self-efficacy. So the third one is looking at the bigger picture. So we often all have these big picture goals that we want to achieve, but by setting those simple goals and also looking at the bigger picture, we're able to sort our priorities, make better plans, and focus on the goals and the bigger picture more effectively. And then lastly, we want to reframe obstacles. So if we are able to reframe, identify, and block those thoughts that continuously come in for those obstacles, we are able to better reframe and replace them with positive interventions. We are also able to reconstruct the way we look at failures and feel about them. And then obviously, as a result, we are able to look at ourselves in a better light. So next, we are going to talk about some activities that you are going to do. So the first one is to practice personal rights statements. So the first document that is attached to this training has a list of personal rights statements. And I just want you to look at that, look at those personal rights statements and just identify three that really resonate with yourself. And then just think about why those resonate with you and if there's any other personal right statements that you would like to add to that list. And then the second document that I have attached here is a self-efficacy step-by-step worksheet. So these questions that are asked in this worksheet really help to go along with these tools that we talked about in the previous slide. So it's talking about setting goals, talking about looking at the bigger picture as well, but also setting those simple goals to help us grow towards that bigger goal. We're also able to reframe those obstacles and stay in that stretch zone. So right now I'd like you to pause the video, reflect on these two documents attached, and then move forward.
All right, moving on to the second objective. My name is Rachel Rosnos, and I apologize in advance. As of the time of this recording, I am unable to have my camera on. I will be walking you guys through some presentation preparation techniques because while we would all love to be able to wing a perfect presentation, it isn't a reality for most of us. So assuming you've chosen a topic and done all the relevant research, it's time to write a script. I use the word script loosely, as it isn't always necessary to have a word-for-word essay to perform. But writing out at least your general points can help ensure that you have what you want to say the way you want to say it. This is a good practice for organizing your thoughts, even if it's just a written out vague outline. Once you have your content finalized, it's time to plan out the presentation itself. Will you be using some kind of visual aid or just going the verbal route? That will depend on the content, circumstance, and resources available. Another decision will be whether to read directly from a script, use note cards, or memorize the whole presentation. Generally speaking, it's best to avoid direct reading when possible. It is usually the most stiff delivery and gives the impression that you don't actually know the content being presented. That being said, if you have a long presentation and very little preparation time, reading might be a more effective delivery system than just stumbling through the presentation. Another option would be to use note cards or some other kind of cue system. While total memorization is the ideal route, it can also be detrimental. Even if you have it memorized, without sufficient practice, the delivery can come off as robotic or uncomfortable. TED curator Chris Anderson, in the 2015 Harvard Business Review article, How to Give a Killer Presentation, refers to this period as the Valley of Awkwardness. According to him, if you don't have time to get out of this valley, it's better to just use note cards than to memorize. What you put on your note cards can also vary depending on the individual presenter needs. Most people jot down their main points, but for me, I struggle with transitions, not so much main points. So my note cards have transition words or phrases. It is important during the planning stage to evaluate your own needs, struggles, and priorities when it comes to giving a presentation, and act in the way best suited to those factors. Now that you've got your content in plan, it's time to practice, practice, and practice some more. The ideal practice situation is in the space that you will be actually giving the presentation with some kind of mock audience, but that isn't always an option for people. If you don't have a practice audience, I would recommend practicing in front of a mirror. Use it to observe your body language and expressions. Haley will be going over what you should be looking for specifically there. Also, practice in a location that mirrors the size and scope of your presentation area. Learn how to use the space and rehearse those movements until they feel natural. When it comes to the act of presenting, practice is the most important tool for preparation. Okay, now I would like you to take a minute or two to consider what you personally struggle with when it comes to presentations. Is there anything you can do in preparation that will help ease this struggle? You can pause the video here to give you time to answer this reflection question.
Learning objective 3 is minimizing minimizing nervous habits and fears. The first way you can do that is by meditating. Guided meditation has been proven to lower the stress associated with upcoming presentations. The second way to do that is to write out notes. having some notes close by can lower the anxiety, and you'll feel more prepared and comfortable with the material. The third way is to pause before you start speaking. Some people some people might be afraid of silence, but pausing either before either either before you start speaking or during your presentation for a few seconds will make you feel in control and more confident. It is also a gentle reminder to yourself to slow down and focus. The f- the fourth way is to listen to music. I am I am a person who stutters during presentations due to being nervous. Previously, therapist my speech therapist has told me to to try putting my favorite music in one ear while presenting, since silent is really challenging, and it actually worked uh, for me. But keep in mind that it doesn't work for everyone. The the fifth way and the last way is to practice some breathing exercises. Deep breathing is one of the best ways to lower stress in the body before a presentation. This is because when you breathe deeply, it sends out a message to your brain to calm down and relax. So now we will be practicing some breathing exercise together.
Hello, I'm Trevor Thompson, and I will be covering how to utilize skills to engage and entertain the audience through virtual and in-person presentations. There are a few ways that a presenter can increase the buy-in of a lulling audience. But first, the presenter has to understand who their audience is. By conducting our survey on the class, we have identified that this area of vulnerability is common amongst our audience. To address this commonality, I will be going into detail about some of the methods that a presenter can gain engagement from their audience. The first method is to tell a story. It creates a connection, builds rapport, engages or provides future engagement opportunities, promotes positive learning. For example, a story about me is when I was an instructor in the military at the Naval Rescue Swimmer School in Pensacola. My first day was extremely nerve-wracking, and I started to doubt myself. Then I decided to engage my students with an icebreaker question. Where is everyone from? By doing this, it allowed me to, as a presenter, to create a connection to my students, seeing how we are all from different places and backgrounds. The rapport built from this question led to my increased self-confidence when presenting publicly and commanded trust and respect from the audience. Asking the simple question of where everyone is from opens the room and builds a positive atmosphere for learning and future engagement, and makes students feel more comfortable to share their thoughts. Next slide. The second method would be to ask a thought-provoking question. It creates a training recall, conversations, and openness of ideas. Asking a provocative question engages the audience's minds. This allows them to start thinking of training and topics and material that have been covered. The question can be simple, but it needs to be tied to the information you have previously provided. An example pertaining to our presentation would be, which learning objective resonates most with you and why? This type of question can not only spark interest in the minds of the student, but it has the potential to generate conversation and the sharing of opinions. Next slide. The third method, assimilate the training to the audience or the company. This creates a job or task connection, increased preparedness, and provides focus on the topic. Explaining how the training the instructor is covering impacts their job, provides the audience with perspective as how it impacts them. Telling the audience what might be in it for them falls into this category as well. You can tell the audience that the material will help prepare them for a test or for generating the procedural recall when performing a task or duty. Utilizing this method will help focus the presentation and gain audience participation throughout the lecture. Next slide. These 3 engaging skills are just a few of the possibilities. So feel free to choose whichever one is most comfortable and compatible with your personality. Please pause the video and reflect on these questions. Why are these methods important to use to engage with the audience? And which methods are you going to include during your next presentation?
All right, so when giving a presentation, your content is extremely important, but it loses its meaning if it can't be communicated clearly and effectively. So for this reason, the last letter to remember is P, which stands for physical presentation skills. Gary Jennard is an expert in theater-based public speaking. He coaches business professionals, leaders, and executives to develop their confidence and influence through their presentation skills. He says that the most important visual you can show an audience is yourself. Add the fact that your voice is produced physically. So some of our best practices are going to be stage present, eye contact, and expressions. So be very careful of your stage presence when presenting. By stage presence, I mean the physical area that you're going to take up. Moving too much will make the speaker appear weak or nervous. Remember the acronym NOD when we think of when we think of stage presence. NOD stands for neutral, open, defined, and strong. Neutral movements create an open space and appearance, and defined movements create a strong space and appearance. This might feel unnatural at first, so I recommend that you practice in front of a mirror and do an exercise where you stand directly in front of the mirror with your hands at your side. It tends to be more effective and confident than excess movements, and it might make you feel more comfortable with stage presence. The second practice, eye contact, is extremely important to create intimacy and personalization with the audience. Avoid reading note cards, but rather maintain natural conversational communication. I recommend that you find 5 to 6 people in the audience, hopefully friendly faces, and you shift your eye contact amongst them. Then our third best practice is expressions. Be very expressive to help the audience understand the meaning of your content better. Be bold and more expressive than you normally would. This can also help with engagement. And then that link there is a TED Talk on body language. Amy Cuddy talks about effective presenting skills and how your body language can actually boost your confidence levels even if you don't feel confident. This will help you with your presenting skills and also just skills in day-to-day life. Then here I would like you to pause the video and reflect on these questions. What additional physical skills do you consider for presentations? And what will you add based on the information I presented to better your presentation skills? So just to wrap up, we identified and addressed methods to increase self-efficacy. We described methods to increase preparedness for presentations. We defined ways to minimize nervous habits and reduce fears. We provided methods to utilize skills to engage the audience through virtual and in-person presentations. And last, we established avenues to perfect physical presentation skills. So remember the acronym AIM UP when you're creating your next presentation. And thank you for taking our training.